to start. Just let me. So we are going to start offering the mandala for us to have these precious teachings of Geshe Sherab. This is a way that we can offer the world everything that we most like for us to receive these precious teachings from Geshe Thubten Sherab. Sashi Poki Yoshi Meto Trari Nari Nide Genpaji Sangye Jinde Mite Owa Ido Kunanda Jingla Chopasho Idan Guru Ratna Mandala Kanirachaya. We are going to do
that. So before we recite the refuge prayer, maybe we can take a few moments to cultivate a good intentions for being here. May us here coming together here, good intentions, giving our precious time together, become the cause and conditions to inspire, encourage us to engage in the practice of Lamrim. May it be cause and condition to actualize all the Lamrim realization within our mind stream. And having actualized all Lamrim realization within our mind stream, may it be cause and condition to attain fully enlightened state, so we can be most greatest help and benefit to each and every sentient being. Okay, then we can do the refuge and
Sangye, sorry?
Yeah.
Sangye Chodan Soki Chonava Chanchu Vadudani Kapsulchu Dagi Chenye Gite Tsolaki Rola Penshe Sangye Rupasho Sangye Chodan Soki Chonava Chanchu Vadudani Katsuchi Dachi Chonye Gite Tsolaki Rola Penshe Sangye Rupasho Sangye Chodan Soki Chonala Chanchu Badu Dani Katsu Lagi Chonye Gipe Sonanki Roa Peshe Sangye Rupasho.
So good evening, everyone, and again, thank you for joining today evening, and I guess you all have been studying Lamrim, and so as probably you are aware that today's topic is Bodhichitta, and which is the very heart of the Lamrim, the Bodhichitta, all other practice, other practices, such as the practice of middle scope and small scope, they are part of preliminary practice for the Bodhichitta. And the practice of, the six perfections, and, which are like once you have cultivated the Bodhichitta, then engaging into the activities of six perfection, the Bodhisattva's practice or conduct, so is the Bodhichitta is the very heart of the Lamrim teaching and practice. And it is the very heart of all the Buddha's teachings. It is the essence and the very heart of the Buddha's teachings. All the teachings very much kind of essence. If you kind of contains all the Buddha's teachings, then it very much come to the altruistic intention of the Bodhichitta. So, as Shandeva said, as well as Lama Tsongkhapa, His Holiness Lama Zopa Rinpoche, with their own direct experience, if you want to be happy, we need to practice Bodhichitta, key to really find true happiness is when we started to practice and cultivate the Bodhichitta mind. So, if you want to work for the happiness of others, practice the Bodhichitta. If you want to have immediate kind of happiness, practice Bodhichitta. If you want to have, long-term happiness, ultimate happiness, practice Bodhichitta. And as Katamba Master says, if you want to purify, practice Bodhichitta. If you want to accumulate merit, practice Bodhichitta. Bodhichitta is key to accumulating merit, key to purifications, and very powerful, extremely powerful tools to accumulate merit and purify. In order to achieve enlightenment, we have to purify all the negative karma, delusion, obscurations. and there is no powerful tools to purify, then the practice the Bodhichitta, as Shandeva explained in his Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life. He gives the example, it's like the fire, the heat of the fire at the end of the, in some of the Buddhist scripture, they explain about the universe being kind of the universe coming to the end due to different elements at a certain time, and then there is time when due to the heat, that the world kind of come to the end, and it talk about the heat of seven sun, very powerful, very strong fire heat, and that can destroy the whole universe because it's so hot. And he give that example, just like that fire, Bodhichitta mind is like that can destroy all kind of negative karma, dismantle and destroy negative karma completely. In terms of purifying and destroying the negative karma and negative emotions, that's very powerful. And also, as I explained, in terms of accumulating merit, the way to achieve enlightenment is through accumulating merit. As Nagarjuna says, in one of his dedications, may we be able to achieve, the Rupakaya and Dharmakaya bodies of the Buddhas through the practice of accumulations of merit and wisdom. And the way to achieve enlightenment is cultivate by accumulating the two collections, the collection of merit and wisdom. So we need to create a lot of merit. And in order to accumulate merit, Bodhicitta is one of the most powerful ways to accumulate merit. Out of Bodhicitta motivations, if you feed one animal, one grain, due to the Bodhicitta motivations, then the merit you create is as equal as making offering of that food to each and every sentient beings. Even though in actual you are just feeding one animal at the moment, but that act you are doing for the happiness and for benefit of each and every sentient beings. And so therefore you accumulate equal numbers of merit as equal of number of sentient beings. So each moment we create incredible amount of merit. And so, one of the great practitioners, Kunul Lama Rinpoche, who was a lay practitioner, he was also one of the teachers of His Holiness Dalai Lama, and he was a great practitioner of Bodhichitta, and in one of his writing, he write the benefit of Bodhichitta, through his own experience. And again, as he write in that, he said, we cannot grasp how much we create merit by the Bodhichitta. We cannot express by words. We cannot be able to conceive by our ordinary minds. And he gave a sky. It's just like trying to measure the how big the sky is by a small ruler. Ruler. You try to. It's not possible. Or trying to count how much water in the ocean by kind of putting cups of water each time, it's not possible. And so he gives the example like that. And so therefore, So Bodhicitta mind is so important factors in our practice. And as again, Kunu Lama Rinpoche says, and as His Holiness always says, with his own experience, when your mind is down, feeling kind of low, practice Bodhicitta mind. That will uplift your mind. That will give you confidence, courage. When you practice the Bodhicitta mind, and with that Bodhicitta mind, when we cultivate such a strong attitude that I'm going to practice for the benefit of each and every sentient beings, no matter how long it takes, no matter how much hardship I need to go, even if I have to remain in the worst, state of samsara, even for one sentient beings, that I will do that. So when we generate that kind of bodhicitta mind, then when we encounter some difficulties, some challenges, this is nothing. You feel like it's nothing. This problem is nothing. This challenge is nothing. You feel it's very small. So that doesn't allow our mind to become so down and low by some of the difficulties that when we practice the bodhicitta. So it gives you a lot of courages. When our mind is kind of arrogant, when we feel like kind of pride and arrogant, practice bodhicitta, that will help us to be more grounded, more humble. If you want to befriend everyone, practice bodhicitta. If you want others to like you, practice bodhicitta. If you want to help and benefit others, practice bodhicitta. So therefore, bodhicitta is so important, so important. And as to get more inspirations to practice bodhicitta, so by understanding the benefit of the bodhicitta, then we can read chapter 1 from the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life. From the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life. That is chapter on the benefit of the bodhicitta. Also you can read the books, by the Kunu Lama Rinpoche. Also those he'll help us to understand the incredible benefit of the bodhicitta. And then when we understand incredible benefit of the bodhicitta, then it will help us to inspire more to practice and cultivate the bodhicitta mind. Okay, so in terms of cultivating the bodhicitta mind, as having studied the Lamrim, basically, traditionally, classically, maybe there are two kinds of different method and meditation to cultivate the bodhicitta mind. Two different meditation technique. One is known as the 7 point of cause and effect. That was passed to the Buddha Shakyamuni, Maitreya, Asanga, and then of course in between there are many, and then to the great Atisha, and then in our lineage, Lama Tsongkhapa, and that, and then there is another meditation technique, what we call equalizing, exchanging self with others. And that technique, again, passed to Buddha Shakyamuni, to Bodhisattva Menzushiri, to, Nagarjuna, and then, Shantideva, and again, of course, in between, there are many, many other teachers that has been passed in it, and then to Guru Adisha and Lama Tsongkhapa, and then that. So those are the main two kind of meditation technique to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind. And then Lama Tsongkhapa put those methods together, and 11 points. And that become, even if we can apply those points together, it become even more powerful, So basically there are those slightly different. And it is mentioned, you can follow any of those techniques, whatever technique that you feel more connected, whatever technique of meditations that you feel more connected, that you can relate more, that you can feel more suitable for you. And by following any particular technique of those, one can cultivate the Bodhicitta mind, generate Bodhicitta mind, by following any of those different techniques, which was more suitable for oneself and, more effective to oneself. And one of the beauty of Dharma is that, sometimes we might feel a little bit overwhelmed. There's so much, isn't it? Sometimes we feel there's so much to learn, so much to practice, overwhelmed, Even with one particular, topic, whether it's meditation on emptiness, or there is meditation on, shamatha, whether it's meditation on bodhicitta, or loving kindness, compassion. There's so many different meditations, The reason is because, different technique of those practice and meditations are more effective to different individuals. One particular technique that might not be so effective to you might be very effective to someone else. A particular technique that is very effective to someone might not be as effective to you because of our different mental states, karma, predispositions, and so on, our different interests, so therefore it's about learning different technique and applying those different technique, and then finding ourselves what is the most suitable and helpful to me. And once we find this particular technique among all different technique of meditations, I find this one most effective, most powerful, most suitable, then we try to rely on that particular technique to really practice, and then follow that particular techniques for ourselves. So in terms of Bodhicitta, regardless of whatever technique meditation technique that you use, method or technique you use, again, first we need to cultivate the mind of equanimity. Whether you are using equalizing, exchanging set of others, or whether you are using 7 point of cause and effect, or combining those together, whatever different method you use, but first, is cultivating the kind of the equanimity mind. If you don't have equanimity mind, then we cannot cultivate love and compassion to each and every sentient being because of our discriminating mind. If you don't have equanimity, then because we have discriminating mind, feeling, strongly close to some out of attachment, and feeling, very distant out of anger to some, and to some, feeling of indecisive, what do you call, indifference. So, so when you feel that indifferent to some people or some sentient beings, very close to some others out of attachment, and then, very distant to some out of anger, then there's no way we can feel love and compassion to all of them equally. And when you cannot feel love and compassion to all of them, then there's no way to actualize the Bodhicitta mind. Without the great compassion towards all sentient beings, without the love towards all sentient beings, there's no way that we can cultivate the Bodhicitta mind. To cultivate Bodhicitta mind, then we need to first develop that love and compassion towards all sentient beings equally. And in order to feel love and compassion equally to all sentient beings, then we need to have non-discriminating equanimity mind. So that equanimity mind is the foundations, the practice of equanimity. Through the practice of equanimity, cultivating the equanimity mind is the foundations. So again, I'm not going to go in details because, I think you already have gone through the details, So on the foundations of that equanimity mind, then we train into the practice to do other points of practice in order to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind. So, again, I will, in terms of, equalizing, exchanging self with others, on the basis of that equanimity, then we try to meditate and practice. We try to contemplate, meditate, that how oneself and all sentient beings are equal, same. Basically, we all are same and equal. In a sense, we all want to be happy and do not wish any suffering. So that is the first meditation we do. Equalizing self with others. Just as we want to be happy, even in a dream, we want to be happy. Even in a dream, we don't want to suffer. Isn't it? And not only we want to be happy and not wish suffering. Each and every human beings, each and every animals, each and every sentient beings have the same, innate desire or wish to be happy and not to suffer. And we just as not only we have that innate wish to be happy and not to suffer, we have right to be happy and not to suffer. And not only we have right to be happy and not to suffer, each and every sentient being equally has right to be happy and not to suffer. And we have the potential to be happy and not to suffer. Equally, each and every sentient beings have the potential to be happy and not to suffer. So meditating on that until we feel, we meditate on that point. I think intellectually we understand a little bit, but we don't feel that at the moment. we don't feel that we all are equal in that way. We still have some kind of, kind of discriminating mind, feeling, feeling of certain individual, ourselves, and certain our families, friends, and all others have right to be happy and not to suffer, but doesn't feel that for others, some others. We might not feel that for a stranger, or even more, someone who we have conflict, someone who we have differences and conflict. Whether you call this enemy or not, we might not feel the same way at the moment. And that is why it is difficult for us to feel love and compassion for them. So the first step of meditations is to reflect, contemplate, take time to really feel that we all are same and equal from that perspective, and no differences on that fundamental level, and focusing on that fundamental level, oneness, equalness, that is very important. If we don't focus on that fundamental oneness and equalness, then we get distracted by temporary differences. Temporary differences, and then on the basis of that, then then we generate a different feeling toward different individuals instead of same love and compassion for everyone. So in our meditations, we really have to focus on that oneness and equalness on that fundamental level. That is the first step of meditations. Once we can really feel, once we are through that kind of practice and meditations, once you are really able to feel, all sentient beings are just like myself. We all are equal, no differences. On that fundamental level, we all are same. We all want to be happy, do not want suffering. And we all have a right to be happy and not to suffer. If you truly feel from your heart that with each and every sentient being, then love and compassion will arise as easily towards any sentient beings. And if the love and compassion can arise towards sentient beings, towards all sentient beings, then that will give the birth to the Bodhicitta mind. And that will induce the Bodhicitta mind. That will lead for Bodhicitta mind to arise and be generated. And so that is the first point of meditation, meditating on equalizing self with others. And I think the first point of that meditation is very, very important. Not just kind of recite, but really feel that. Through practice and meditation over the time, with the practice and meditation, you started to really feel, because sometimes when we meditate, we might feel that for a moment, We feel that like for that while you are meditating for life, but then when you are not meditating, we don't feel it. Then again, we get caught up in differences. Or he or she is not same like me, he or she, we don't have same view, or he or she, we don't agree, and all this, and then again, but if we continue to practice and meditate on that first point, again and again, over the time, then that become more and more natural, more and more spontaneous, and that feeling come more and more often. So even when you are not meditating on cushions, you can still have that feeling, you know. And so if you have that kind of feeling, the sense of feeling of oneness and equal all the time, 24 hours, as with the time, as with the practice, as time passes by, with the practice, then it becomes much more easier to feel love and compassion to others all the time. So, a lot of time, the problem with us, sometimes we kind of want to move each meditation stages or points quickly, I don't want to be in this same meditation that I've been doing for. I want to go to the next step, I want to reach the more advanced stages. We try to jump quickly. We want to reach there quickly without a strong foundation of earlier the steps, and then that's where we struggle to have the result. That's why we struggle to have the result. And so even it might take long time, but that first stage is very important, because if you have that strong foundation of that, then the second stage, third stage, they will come more easily, And then the other meditations, the second point in that meditation is, meditating on the disadvantage of or shortcoming or disadvantage of selfish attitude, So meditating on that, because selfish attitude is the main inner obstacle to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind. Is the opposite, mental force of Bodhicitta mind. Bodhicitta mind is the mind that cherishes others. Whereas selfish attitude does not cherish others. It's all about self. The self becomes the center of the world, the center of the universe in that selfish attitude. Everything should be around that self, centered around the self. And so therefore, meditating on how that selfish attitude, that self-centeredness, is the root of our problems. And understanding that not because Buddha said that, not because Shantideva said that, not because someone like His Holiness said that, Lama Tsongkhapa said, but through our own experience, understanding that, observing, analyzing, when we have problems, when my mind is disturbed, when our mind is disturbed, analyze, why am I disturbed? Why am I disturbed? Why am I angry? Why am I frustrated? Why am I so impatient? All of that. Because when you are impatient, frustrated, angry, upset, that is when we suffer. That is when we suffer. Not only we suffer, when we are that, then we tend to be more harmful to others. When I'm peace, when I'm, stable, peaceful, patience, we tend to hurt others less. But when we are frustrated, impatient, angry, and so forth, that is when we tend to be kind of become more nasty and more unkind and does more harming and damaging say or do to others. And so therefore, so where there's all these emotions, those harmful negative emotion arises, where this, if you look, then all come from selfish attitudes, self-centeredness, We're frustrated because we can't get what we want. It's all about what I want. I want to be done this way. I want to be that way, and it's not happening. I want to happen it immediately, and it's not happening. That's why I'm frustrated. That's why I'm frustrated, because things are not moving, things are not happening the way I want. The way I want, Same. Why am I impatient? Similarly, I doesn't like that kind of behavior or that kind of attitude. And that person continue to show that kind of attitude, that kind of behavior. So I become impatient. And so again, it is about me, the self-centeredness, because I don't like that kind of attitude, that kind of behavior, that kind of all this and that. Or because again, I become impatient because things are not happening and moving fast enough the way I want. It's not happening the way I wish I want, So it is all because of, And why would you get upset and angry, Just because someone doesn't like me, because someone said bad thing about me. It's all about me, because of that. Because someone said bad to me, because someone doesn't like me, Because someone did something bad to me. So that is why we get upset and angry. Imagine, just kind of imagine, if you don't have that sense of self-centeredness, selfish attitude, the sense of importance of yourself, so important of yourself, then even the person behave that way, even the person's behave the same way he or she is behaving now, even he or she has same attitude, it wouldn't hurt you so much. It wouldn't affect you so much. It wouldn't make you so upset and angry. It wouldn't make you so frustrated, impatience, And therefore, due to that selfish attitude, then we feel hurt. And due to that feeling we hurt, then all those different negative emotions arises. And then we suffer immediately due to arising those negative emotions. And then we create more karma through those negative emotions, through through our one of three doors. And as a result of those karma, again, we continue to experience suffering in the future. And that's how we suffer. And that's also how we create suffering to others. Out of one of those negative emotions that arises because of that selfish attitude, self-centeredness, then we say something, or we act something, or we think something that's harmful, hurtful to someone, and then we create suffering, pain, harm to others as well. Check it out. Not because the Lambrim says, but use your own experience. Use your own experience. Check with your own experience in your life. Check when I'm frustrated, is there my selfish attitude, my self-centeredness involved there or not? If it wasn't involved there, would I be will I feel that way? Just one simple example, okay? Sometimes we feel it is nothing to do with my, selfish attitude, self-centeredness. It's because that person's actions or behavior is harmful. That's why I'm upset. That's why I'm frustrated. Don't we feel that way sometimes? Therefore, I have a right to be frustrated, and I should be frustrated. I have a right to be angry. I should be angry because that person's actions is harmful, engaging in something harmful. Do you feel that sometimes? No. But if you really check it, it's just an excuse for us. It's because of our own, self-centeredness, that's selfish attitude. That is why we get hurt. And if that person's act same way, okay, to someone you dislike very much, will you be frustrated? Will you be upset? No, maybe you might be even joyful. You might even be joyful. Oh, that is what that person deserves. He or she need like that, someone like that. If you are upset and frustrated with the harmful actions, we should be upset and frustrated because it is a harmful actions. It's not directly toward you, but it's directed toward another sentient beings. So it is not because someone is engaging in that you are upset and frustrated, not because someone is engaging in a harmful action towards another being. But it is because it's me, So it is related with our self-centeredness, selfish attitude, and therefore, as Shantideva says, whatever, and Nagarjuna said, whatever suffering they are in the world, whatever suffering they are in the world, whatever problem they are in the world, they are result of selfish attitude, self-centeredness. And again, as I mentioned, we shouldn't think it is because they said, but it's very important for us to relate with our own experience and understand that with our own experiences. So it doesn't just become dry words by some of those masters, but actually it become really personal and real, because we have done the meditations, contemplations, examinations with our own experience, and we find, because we understand and we find and understand absolutely, not only they have said, but we confirm that is true with our own experiences. Because once you are sure, that once we realize this selfish attitude is the very root of all the problem and stuff, then, we will start to put more effort in trying to reduce and overcome that. Then we will put more effort in trying to, at the moment, well, Shantideva says, Nagarjuna says, or this and this, but I'm not sure whether that's the case or not. So our mind is kind of a little bit not 100% sure, shaky. And so then we don't put as much strong effort to minimize and to reduce and overcome it. And because more effort we put, once we understand that with our own experience, more we put effort, the more we'll be able to minimize them, the more we'll be able to overcome and destroy them. And the more we are able to destroy that selfish attitude, then the more better environment we create to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. Because we are reducing the internal obstacles, hindrance to generations of love, compassion, bodhicitta mind. And then, next stage of the meditations, the third point or stages of meditations in this is, meditating, contemplating on the benefit of the cherishing thought for others. How cherishing thought for others is the root of all happiness. Is the root of, happiness while we are in samsara, and is the root of happiness, ultimate happiness of full enlightenment. Again, we can compare, we can see with our own mind, Are you more happy when you're totally consumed by selfish attitude, or are you more happy, your mind is more peace, calm, happy, when your mind is more open, and when your mind is more open and think of well-being of others? It's clear, when we started to have sense of cherishing thought for others, sense of concern for others, it's much more peace, much more happier, much more calm compared to, self-obsessive, where everything has to be about me, that kind of strong selfish attitude, self-centeredness, or anger, The cherishing thought for others, the concern for the well-being of others, When you have that, when you have concern for well-being of that individual, through the cherishing for that person, then there's no space for anger to arise toward that person. And by not having anger towards that, because of that cherishing thought for that person, because of sense of concern and care for that person's well-being, then again, your mind is able to find peace and happiness and joy. And we can see with our experience, our different experiences with people in our life, whether it's a family, whether it's a friend, whether it's a strangers, when we are in with them, are we more peaceful, calm, happy when we feel concern for them, when we feel concern and well-being of them, caring about them? Or do we feel more peace when we are upset with them, angry with them, or when we are too strong self-importance mind? It's clear. We are so much more happy. We are much more peaceful, much more calm when we are able to feel the concerns of the people that we encounter, well-being of them, when we really care about them, when we really have sense of cherishing and concern for them, is a totally different experience. And so we can see with that. And even the happiness of higher rebirth, depend on cherishing thought for others. Because to have a higher rebirth, as we have studied, in the earliest stages of Lamrim, in the middle, small scope, one of the main cause to have a higher rebirth and better happy experience is the practice of, the main cause is the practice of pure morality. And that's supported by the practice of generosity and pure dedication or prayers. And we practice this moral discipline, such as from restraining or refraining from harming others through our body, speech, and mind. Why we try to refrain or restrain from acting something harmful physically, verbally, and mentally towards others? Because we cherish them. Because we don't want to hurt them. Because we don't want to hurt them, just as you don't want to be hurt by others. You don't want to hurt them because you regard them, you cherish them, their life. So that practice is based on cherishing others. Same with the practice of generosity. That is one of the other causes. Why we practice generosity, charity? Because you see there's someone who is in need of help, and you have the opportunity and ability to help, and you help through your charity, generosity. And because, again, you do that because you are concerned for that being. Because you care about that person. So therefore, that is the cherishing for others. So therefore, the main cause of happiness of higher rebirth and happy experience in a higher rebirth is very much rooted in cherishing thought. Same, the happiness of individual liberation, arhat. Also, that practice is very much rooted in the practice of Thiri higher training. And Thiri higher training, the very foundation among all these higher training is moral discipline, which is the which is the main foundation to develop shamatha, and shamatha as a tool to develop the special insight. And so, again, that the very foundation moral discipline, the practice of moral discipline, is very much rooted in cherishing thought for others. So therefore, the happiness of arhat or liberation also is very rooted in cherishing thoughts for others. It comes to that. And therefore, and there is no doubt, all the positive qualities and inner joy and happiness that has been developed throughout the Bodhisattva path, starting from cultivating Bodhicitta mind, and then entering the first path, second path, and then third path, and 10 bhumis, all the different higher level of inner peace, happiness, and realization, they all are rooted in cherishing thought for others. They all comes due to the cherishing thought. So the happiness of, and including the happiness of, ultimate happiness of enlightenment, is very much rooted in Bodhicitta mind, which is very much rooted in cherishing thought for others. So that is why all the statement you see in the different teachings, how all the happiness is rooted in cherishing thought for others. You can see that, you can see how. And then as Shandeva again, as he said, in brief, he said, what can I say more? Just compare ourselves and the Buddhas, where we are now. We are still in samsara, still not free from the sufferings, continue to experience problem and suffering, because we follow the selfish attitude, self-centeredness. Whereas the Buddhas, even though at one time they were like us, they decided to not follow the selfish attitude. Instead, they follow the cherishing thought for others. They tried effort to cultivate the cherishing thought for others. As a result, now they are our refuge, have achieved ultimate happiness. So with that two different results, where we are and where the Buddha is now, we can understand why there's two different results, because of two different causes. We follow one particular cause, one particular mind, and they follow in a different mind, different cause. We follow, so far, we have been following the selfish attitude as our refuge, And whereas they follow the cherishing thought for others as a refuge, they follow that, and that is where the result at the moment. And so, as Shandeva said, again, it is true. It's true. It's very true. At one time, we might have been even, better than Buddha himself, but then he progressed very quickly, and we are still there. We haven't progressed, and we are still in samsara, still under the control of the karma and delusions. And because we choose to follow the selfish attitude, whereas the Buddha choose and make effort to give up the selfish attitude and to follow the cherishing thought for others. So that is So that that is third point of meditations. And then, the fourth point of meditation, exchanging self with others, So exchanging self with others, meaning, changing the attitude. At the moment, we cherish ourselves very much, and we totally kind of neglect or ignore others' well-beings. We have that kind of attitude. Now changing that attitude by understanding the shortcoming or selfish attitude, and by understanding the benefit of cherishing for others, then we try to change that kind of attitude from selfish attitude to cherishing others. Changing that attitude now, having less and less selfish attitude, and cultivating more and more cherishing thought for others, And so, so that is the exchange. And then there are in Shantideva's, in chapter 8 on meditation, in his guidebooks of life, he has a little bit of kind of meditation technique on that, kind of putting yourself in the different shoes, and then training in that way, that kind of using certain image or certain visualizations, and through that, that can be helpful as well. Could be helpful, and then so then the fifth is the actual Bodhichitta. Then the practice of Tonglen, taking and giving. In order to train our mind to cultivate more love and compassion. So you practice in Tonglen, which means taking and giving. So taking through certain imagination, visualizations, by thinking the taking of suffering of others and cause of suffering on yourself, and giving all your happiness, goodness, all the virtues, all the positive sending to others, giving and sending to others. So through that kind of training, that kind of meditation, then we train our mind to be, more loving and more compassionate, by contemplating and by meditating and contemplating on the other sufferings and cause of sufferings, and by able to understand their pain and suffering. With that understanding and feeling their pain and suffering, and cultivating a strong wish, cultivating a strong confidence wish, wanting to able to take that pain and suffering on yourself, that you are willing to take their pain and suffering and problem on yourself. So when you do that again and again, then it helps us to develop strong compassions, and to make our compassion more stronger and stronger. The more we do that, our compassion becomes more stronger and stronger. Our compassion starts to grow stronger and stronger, and more profound. And then when we try to reflect, contemplate on others, even they want happiness, but they struggle in happiness. Not only they do not have ultimate happiness, but they struggle even in the very basic samsaric happiness, even very samsaric well-beings. So when you contemplate, meditate on that, and then you feel, then you understand their struggles, lack of happiness, lack of joy, peace in their life. And not only you understand through that, again, reflecting, contemplating, and meditation, then you start to feel in their struggles, their lack of happiness and peace as your own, and then you cultivate a strong wish, and again, very courageous and confident wish to be able to share whatever virtues we have, whatever happiness we have, whatever excellent and good qualities we have to offer, we offer to them, we send to them, we give to them, without any sense of grasping, without any sense of expectations, without any sense of loss. We completely give and send in that practice and meditation training, And when we do that practice, meditation, then again, we all have, the seed of love and compassion. So each time we do that, then it's like pouring water to the seed of the love and compassion. And so as it gets more water, more, moisture, more light, heat, and all of that, then that the seed of love and compassion is starting to grow. It started to blossom and grow bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger. And so that is how the practice of Tonglen, or taking and giving, is to a meditation and powerful practice and powerful meditations to improve our loving kindness and compassion. Because that loving kindness and compassion is the key and the root cause of Bodhicitta mind. So those are the 5 steps of meditations in terms of equalizing exchange and set with others, and once we have through that training on those 5 stages, then we cultivate a strong love and compassion to each and every sentient beings. We really feel, strongly, very strongly, sincerely, spontaneously, naturally, love and compassion for all sentient beings. And when you really feel love and compassion for all sentient beings, then you really want to, relieve their pain and suffering. You really want to see them and lead them to the happiness, And when you have that strong wish, then again we realize, there's very little we can do at the moment with our present state, being unenlightened, being ourselves. We ourselves being in samsara, we ourselves being under the control of delusion and karma, So we feel, we ourselves being very unenlightened, the help, benefit, as much as we want to do so much, as much as we want to help so much, there's very limited what we can do, very limited help that we can do. And so when we think, can I be help and benefit to each and every sentient beings without any limitations? And for the best of individual, whatever their needs are, then when we reflect, contemplate on that, then we understand, only if we can do that, only if we can become fully enlightened ourselves. When we are free from our own karma, delusions, obscurations, when we have cultivated all, positive, inner positive qualities, when we have become fully awakened, enlightened, then we can be greatest help, benefit to each and every sentient beings, every moment, in the most skillful way, in a limit, without any limitations, according to the need of each and every sentient beings. And we come to that understanding as we reflect and contemplate on what the fully enlightenment is, what the fully awakened one is. The more you understand when you reflect, contemplate, study, meditate, practice, and the more and more you understand that, the more and more you cultivate a strong wish to achieve that in order to be greatest benefit without any limitation to all sentient beings. And then when you have that strong aspiration to achieve that state, fully awakened, fully enlightened state, in order to benefit other sentient beings, driven by the great love and compassion, that mind is called Bodhicitta mind. And when we actualize that Bodhicitta mind, of course, at the very beginning, we feel that aspiration to achieve that the fully enlightened, fully awakened state when we put effort, meditations, and when we put effort. But when you don't put effort and when you don't reflect on it, doesn't come. But as we practice more and more and more, then it becomes less and less. If it requires less and less effort, it becomes more and more easy to feel that way, to have that aspirations. It becomes more and more spontaneous, more and more natural. And then there comes a time that it all comes very spontaneous, without any effort, very natural, And when that happens, then that is when we have the realization of Bodhicitta. And that is when you become Bodhisattva. And that is when you enter the first path of the Bodhisattva. So at the moment, we are training to be on Bodhisattva path, but we are not actually in the Bodhisattva path unless you have cultivated the Bodhicitta mind spontaneously, without effort, effortlessly, spontaneously. And so that is Bodhicitta mind. So yeah, I don't think I need to go the 7 point of cause and effect, instead of going through that when you have already gone detail each of them, maybe I would rather kind of open for some questions while we have little time. Questions, anything, comments to share, you have anything to say, share, all of them welcome this.
So Geshe-la is asking us if you have questions. So we are going to ask you to write on the chat. Then I will try to translate to Geshe-la. Please be concise, because sometimes it's difficult to express what you write and what you say. And Geshe-la says question or comments. Everybody's welcome. And please take this opportunity. Just one thing, we have to finish in 10, 12 minutes because Geshe-la has another commitment. So, yes, please. Just need to write on the chat.
I guess
Yes. So I'm going to ask you if you have any question.
I think there's also someone who raised a hand. Elena, I don't know, it says here, message came.
Thank you. I wanted to ask Geshe-la first, thank you so much for your teaching. Is it possible for you to briefly talk about how these 3 methods to cultivate bodhicitta can be seen from the perspective of like a deepening one's understanding of dependent arising.
Mm-hmm. I think, again, the wisdom of dependent arisings and the Bodhichitta mind, the method, each of those practices can complement each other's, support each other's, So when we have the practice of Bodhichitta mind, or when we in practice in the Bodhichitta mind through any of those techniques, any of those method, then we try to cultivate more love, more compassion, sense of cherishing thought for others and Bodhichitta mind. The more we do that, the more merit we create. The more merit we create, the more better condition we create to have a correct understanding and realization of wisdom, the emptiness, dependent arisings. So in that way, it can support, because to have a correct realization of the wisdom of dependent arising, the emptiness, it is said it requires a lot of merit. If you don't have enough merit, forget about realization. You wouldn't even be able to hear teaching on emptiness and dependent arisings. So one needs an incredible amount of merit to support that. And through those training in Bodhichitta and that, then definitely that can support us in that. And then of course also we can, in that training, dependent arisings, we can see, how our happiness, each of our happiness is dependent on others, how our happiness come from directly or indirectly through the contributions of others. And so in that way, it's depending, arisings. So through that, I can, our present happiness, our future happiness of better high rebirth, our happiness of liberation, our happiness fully enlightened, how all of them are dependent on others, many other conditions, many other causes, especially many other sentient beings, directly, indirectly. And through that, again, coming to understand, how we all are dependent on each other, our experience, how we are dependent on each other's, and so forth. Yeah. So, okay. Yes. Any other questions?
Geshe-la, is it possible to reach Bodhicitta and then lose it? Is it possible to realize and lose it, Bodhicitta?
Yes, it is said it's possible to lose it, but at the very beginning stages, once you reach in the first path, the path of accumulation, both of the path of accumulations, there are three kind of level in that stages, the initial level, middle, and grade. Once you have reached the middle level of the first path of accumulation, then there's no turning back, then you wouldn't lose. There's no way losing the Bodhichitta mind. But the initial part, still you can lose it if you don't continue to meditate, if you don't continue to practice, you can still lose it when you are still at the very beginning, initial part of that first path. Okay. Yes.
So next question is, so the afflictive emotions, they express our ego.
Mm-hmm.
They make us to see the ego through the affliction emotions. So how can you see the ego is in control if you don't have the affliction emotions?
Mm-hmm.
The affliction emotions show our ego. So how to recognize our ego in control if you don't have affliction emotions?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe even we might not be it is hard for our egos be in control if we don't have negative emotions. If we have overcome the negative emotions, then I think even though the ego or the selfish attitude might not be completely destroyed, but still it will not be so active. It will be more kind of like imprint of that, and so, but still, even we don't have the delusions, still that we are in samsara, still if we have still problem and suffering, that is clear, still is run by the ego, it's ego. If we don't have ego, then, why? And also, if we have a problem with having cultivating love and compassions and bodhicitta mind to all sentient beings, then again, it's because of the ego. If we don't have ego, there wouldn't be a problem to feel love and compassion to each and every sentient beings, to feel bodhicitta mind, But if even we don't feel like delusion arising, because they are kind of subsiding there, they are not manifesting, but still it is there, So therefore, and because of the ego, that is why we cannot feel love and compassion to each and every sentient being. So that is another clear sign that still we have not overcome the ego, and the ego is still kind of in charge. Yeah. So I think maybe we can have two more questions and then, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we have two more. Yeah. So I can't help developing disturbed emotions when I see someone harming others, not to mention to myself. And we see so much harm all the time. Is it ever possible not to feel frustrated or angry or even sad when we see news about war, for example?
Uh-huh. Yes, I think it is possible. I can't say with my example, unfortunately, that is possible because I haven't reached that point. But I would say, it is possible from theoretically, reasoning logics from all those teachings in that. But also His Holy Dalai Lama, his own experience, he often shares of that, even though he see all the harms and that's done in Tibet and in the world and continue to be done. He hear about it, he see that, he feel that, but again, he say he hardly feel any frustrations, anger towards those who do that. Instead, he feel compassion for them. Instead he feel compassion for them, and so it is possible. And I again, one time, His Holiness, I think probably you might have heard, shared a story of one of the monk who was in prison and tortured for many, many years, almost maybe 20 years. And then when he get out of prison and he escaped to India, and then, he met and His Holiness. And then in one of the casual conversations, with that monk, then the monk said, there were a couple of times danger while he was in prison. And then His Holiness says, he thought he was talking about danger to his life physically. And he asked, what kind of danger did you have? And he said there were a couple of moments when you feel like he might lose the compassion for those who are torturing, So therefore, it is possible if we train our mind. It won't be so easy, but if we continue to practice with the time, it is possible. It has been possible for many beings. And so we have the same potentials. And so it should be possible. Yeah.
Okay, so The next question is, so somebody did a bad thing to me, and I didn't stop talking to this person, but I became very superficial in WhatsApp. So I'd like to know, like, if I should stop the friendship because I don't want to be more superficial, or if I should be back and talk to the person. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much for making this opportunity for me to ask this, and please, if you can help.
Okay, thank you. It depends. It depends. I don't think it is an easy answer to say this is the way. We all have to kind of figure out, whether it is better to kind of keep the friendship so that we can, even though you are angry and upset at the moment, but maybe you can overcome that, and maybe you can continue to build up that friendship, and by overcoming whatever disturbance that you feel, even though you don't really feel very close at the moment because of certain event, because certain things that you still have not overcome that. So if you want to build up that relationship, and so therefore, even though a little bit superficial, but still you are trying to build up, and you are trying to kind of get over whatever frustration, whatever bad feeling you have, so that you can reach a point where you can feel again, not superficial, but real, so you want to work for that. It is possible with that intention, you can continue to do that. You want to keep that so that you can continue to work, that you can go beyond that superficial and to real that. And in some cases, in some situations, there are situations and individual, certain specific kind of relationship karma, sometimes it's better to kind of stop it, so there is no more continuation of negative karma to each others. So, we have to figure out, we have to see and decide. Yeah. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank
and
you,
then
Geshe-la.
the dedications. Yeah.
Raisa, can you share the dedication prayers, please? Pelos méritos dessas ações virtuosas, que eu rapidamente alcance o estado de um Guru Buda e guie todos os seres viventes, sem exceção, a esse estado iluminado. Que a suprema joia da Bodhichitta, que ainda não surgiu, surge e cresça, e que aquela que já surgiu nunca diminua, mas aumente cada vez mais e mais. Que a preciosa visão da vacuidade, que ainda não surgiu, surge e cresça, e que aquela que já surgiu nunca diminua, mas aumente cada vez mais e mais. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Geshe-la, and see you next Thursday.
Okay, see you all next Thursday. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
See you next week.
Thank you, Geshe.
See you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
If you have any questions that you have,
Thank you very much.
bring next time.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ok.
Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada. Good night.
Muito obrigada. Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Muito
Thank you
obrigado.
very
Boa noite.
much.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Thank you. Bye. Have a nice time. Bye bye.
Muito obrigada. Boa noite.
Boa noite. Mais uma vez, obrigada.
Obrigada a todos.